Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Triple Play, that podcast based on a theme park ride. Because this month we watched Pirates of the Caribbean. Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, and At World's End, I guess.
Written by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, or Rossio.
Directed by Gore Verbinski.
That's why there's so much gore in these. No, sorry. And released in 2003, 2006, and 2007.
Yeah, so I've seen these twice before this. So this is my third time watching these movies.
Yeah, I've seen the first one once and the fourth one once. Obviously, we didn't watch the fourth one for this episode.
Yeah, if they make a sixth one, we'll watch 4, 5, and 6.
They're gonna make a sixth one.
Really? Because the fifth one, the trailer is like the final adventure begins, and I saw that on screen. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to call BS on that.
I mean, unless the fifth one completely bombs, which I don't see happening, they're probably gonna make a sixth one.
The fifth one's actually apparently really good. From word on the street from when it premiered at CinemaCon, they were like, it goes back to the roots of the first one. It's probably the best one in the series since the first one.
Well, the fourth one was pretty good, and after watching the second and third one for this, I thought, like, yeah, the fourth one did sort of go back to the roots, and what made me like the first one a lot more than 2 and 3 is what I thought about 4, but I haven't watched 4 in like 3 or 4 years, so...
Yeah, I watched 4 like right when it came out.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but this episode's not about episode 4. It's not about On Stranger Tides. I like how the subtitles got increasingly more verbose and obtuse.
It's not about episode 5 there. I mean, Last Jedi there. Anyway, sorry. The trailer just came out like yesterday or this morning, so...
Yesterday morning.
Yeah, well, I watched it this morning, so...
Anyway,
yeah, they did get more verbose, and I read just to get ahead of ourselves a little bit, I read that they deliberately hid the title from the subtitle from the posters for the first movie. Because they slapped it on near the end of production, and Verbinski, I think, didn't really like it.
Yeah, because it kind of does give away the fact that they're all cursed.
The reason he didn't like it is because he said, well, it's not really the curse of the Black Pearl. The Black Pearl, the ship itself, it's the curse of the Aztec treasure. That's why he didn't like it. But in my mind, it's like, okay, the curse of the Black Pearl, like the... Oh my god, I said it again. I'm going to be doing... Watch, I'm going to do it for the entire episode. It's just so easy. It's so much easier to say. In my mind, it was like, okay, it's the curse of the Black Pearl's crew.
Yeah.
So it sort of made sense to me.
Assumed.
But, yeah.
The fifth one's called Dead Men Tell No Tales. He's going for the longest movie title award. So
I wonder what the longest movie title actually is.
There was a post on Reddit one time, and it linked to this blog, and this guy collected the longest movie titles he knew of, and I think the longest was a solid, 23 words.
Jesus. It's just the script of the movie as the title.
I mean, Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned How to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb is up there.
Yeah, I heard about that recently, and I don't remember when or how I heard about it.
It's a Stanley Kubrick film that's apparently very good, and it's on my list. I want to watch it.
Your list?
I keep a mental list of movies I want to watch, and I never get around to. Anyway. So... yeah, it's actually based on the theme park ride. If you didn't know, there's a theme park ride at Disneyland called Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, which I didn't know until I sort of looked it up in what little preparation for this episode I admittedly did, that's one of Disneyland's most popular rides. I think it came out in the 70s.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until this research.
Yeah, I don't see why. I've been on the ride, I think, probably twice. We live really close to Disneyland, if you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really necessarily care for it as much as some of the other rides there. I think my favorite ride at Disneyland is Indiana Jones.
Yeah, mine too.
Or Peter Pan. Peter Pan is pretty good.
I like Indiana Jones or the Mine roller coaster, Big Thunder Mountain. Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, I think they redid that within the past couple years.
Yeah.
I haven't been on it since they did that.
I haven't
been to Disneyland since I think 2010.
I've been on Space Mountain since they redesigned it 5 years ago.
Didn't they redesign that one because someone died on it? No, I think that was Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, I think that was Thunder Mountain, I think.
Anyway, interestingly, this doesn't have anything to do with the movies, but Pirates, the ride, is the one place at Disneyland that you can see Club $33,
I think it is.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
It's like Disneyland's exclusive club that costs like $20,000 to get in. That's the one place you can, one of the two places you can see it without being a member of the club. The other place you can see it is there's like a secret knock to get in. So if you know the secret knock, which you can find out easily online, or I don't know if it's a secret knock, but it's like some signal to get in. If you know what it is, you can get in like the lobby, but they'll just escort you out if you don't have your card or membership or whatever.
Yeah, because I think it's actually in that building that Pirates is in. I think that's why you can see it.
It's the entrance is like deliberately hidden, but it's in that area. If you're familiar with Disneyland's layout, it's near the Pirates ride.
Because the Pirates ride, you go down.
You go down a little ramp.
You go down a little ramp, and then you kind of like underground. You're under this building, kind of, because you go like under this bridge, and then you see the building kind of above you, and you go underneath it to go into the ride. And I'm pretty sure in that building, either Club 33 is in that building, or there's like a hotel suite in that building. I know there's something in that building that's interesting, but I don't remember what it was.
Almost 100% sure here that it's Club 33, but yeah. If you're super rich, it's a thing you might want to join. There's a yearly fee that's several $1,000s. So.
Disneyland actually has a lot of interesting things about it. I'm sure we could do an entire podcast episode on just interesting things about Disneyland.
Yeah, the Club 33 is the one place that in Disneyland where you can get alcohol.
Yeah, which is surprising to me.
Not surprising to me.
I feel like they would serve it elsewhere, but I think it's actually something to do with their building codes with Anaheim, and also because Walt Disney was like, no alcohol.
Yeah, pretty sure it's that.
Yeah, another fun fact about Disneyland. This will be the last one. Then we'll actually get back to the movies. They had to, because Anaheim actually has really strict requirements on how tall you're allowed to build your buildings. They had to get special permission from Anaheim to build the Matterhorn.
/ buy out Anaheim.
To build the Matterhorn to be so high as it was, because it actually violated building codes the way it was originally planned. They had to go to Anaheim and get permission to build it as big as they did.
Pretty interesting.
The Matterhorn is actually the tallest building in Disneyland.
In Anaheim.
And Anaheim. Space Mountain as a building is actually taller, but they sank Space Mountain down so that the Matterhorn would be taller.
Yep.
To the movies. So, Elliot and Rossio really wanted to do like a swashbuckling pirate film because the pirate genre kind of died after the 50s, I think.
It was kind of like the Western genre. I was looking this up too in preparation for it. It's pretty interesting. There were a lot of like swashbuckling, which swashbuckler isn't necessarily pirate, I learned, which I didn't know that. But
I didn't know that
until
right now.
Because a lot of other movies, like Robin Hood is technically classified as a swashbuckler movie. Basically anything with like sword fighting and like some romantic element. With like a heroic main character, which you can decide if Jack's heroic, you know. But I mean, Will is the first one.
Well, in the first movie, yeah.
But yeah, that sort of died out as time went on.
Yeah, I think because people just wanted different things, and then every time they tried to revive the genre, basically every time they made it, it kind of sucked and tanked real bad. It's like, well, I guess people don't want to see pirate films. It's not that people didn't want to see pirate films. It's apparently the people didn't want to see bad pirate films.
I guess so, because now a lot of people want to see pirates.
Although, interestingly, Pirates of the Caribbean is still like the only pirate movie that I can name that's come out in the past decade.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there have been others that sort of tried to cash in on the success of the first one and all the other ones, but mostly the first one. But I can't name any of them. There wasn't any of those, like, semi-decent cash-ins that, like, are also pretty good, too.
In their own right, yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of any. Maybe there are, but I can't think of any.
I can't think of any right now, either. Yeah, kind of weird in that they're trying to revive the pirate genre and they just became their own kind of thing.
Well, I think it was just the two writers who were really trying to revive it and do their own thing with it. I don't think anyone else... Well, I didn't get the feeling from what I read that anyone else on the production crew or anyone at Disney really even cared.
Yeah.
But since we're talking about the writers, we should mention that these two writers always work together, or almost 100% of the time. They both wrote Aladdin. They both wrote Shrek 1. Oh, God.
Shrek 1. Actually, Shrek 1 wasn't the best of the Shrek films, because I like Shrek 2 the most, even though I don't really like those films. I do like Shrek 2 the most, though.
I don't like the Shrek series in general, but...
Yeah, well, our opinion has been a little bit tainted from personal experience.
That's true. That's very true.
So, Yeah, but Aladdin, though, on the other hand, was a good movie.
Ants, I think. A lot of animated
Man, I
movies.
own Ants on, like, VHS. Because I own both Ants and Bug's Life.
I own Aladdin on VHS. No, I was going to say I own Shrek, but I don't think I do.
I don't own Shrek.
Thank God.
Yeah, so I think they worked on the script in the 90s is when they first put it together, and there wasn't a studio who wanted to pick it up. I mean, I think they later changed it to be more of a quote-unquote adaptation of the ride, although it became more of an adaptation and then immediately veered away from being an adaptation.
Yeah, it got complicated.
This is where things get complicated. I think they approached Jerry Bruckheimer with it, and he was the one who kind of became the driving force between them and Disney, trying to get it actually made.
Mm-hmm. Which Disney seems to be the main party in this, who was like, yeah, let's make it, and let's not make it, and let's make it again, just being really difficult about it, seemed like.
Yeah, Disney has this weird relationship with independent writers who come to them with their own ideas, I guess. Says Disney was apprehensive about doing a movie about pirates when ostensibly Disney is a children's brand, although not completely.
Yeah, there was also the, I guess, sort of qualms about another movie based on a theme park ride, because, well, I looked up, Wikipedia has categories, movies based on theme park rides, and there's only like a couple things on there, and they're all from Disney, like Haunted Mansion and the bear one.
Yeah, the bear one was...
I forgot that existed, and then I remembered that it existed.
I actually also didn't remember that existed, but when I was reading this, the failure of that movie was actually why Disney was apprehensive about making this, was because the bear one totally tanked, and they were like, I don't know if we really want to make another movie, especially one set in a genre that hasn't been, I guess, in the glory days since the 50s.
But I'm not sure, maybe I'm just saying this because it's 2017, and obviously we know that the Pirates franchise is a huge success now, but is it really so much the idea that they're both based on a theme park ride, or is it that people just don't want to see bears and they do want to see like cool pirates and sword fighting and magic?
See, that's always the thing about every time we do one of these episodes, we hear one of these stories, and it's like, do you really think they wanted to see bears, like talking bears doing whatever they do on the ride?
Yeah, like what I'm trying to get at is I don't think it's necessarily that they were, well, I'm pretty sure now that we know Pirates is a success, it probably wasn't the fact that they're both based on a theme park ride. It was probably the fact that it was bears.
But at the same time, it's like, do you really think... I'm trying to imagine
the Country Bears.
Country Bears, I think it was. I'm trying to imagine, like, would they even market it as being based on a theme park ride? Like, I don't think that's something you'd slap on all of your advertisements, like, new movie based on the theme park ride. And some, like, theme park aficionado is like, yeah, I've been waiting for this my whole life.
Well, apparently the Pirates ride is one of the most popular at Disneyland, so maybe it was pretty well known. I mean, obviously we were kids when this came out, so... You know, when you hear about the ride, or like, I don't remember actually when
I don't think I was in America when the first one came out, although I definitely was for the next two.
I mean, I don't think I made any connection like, oh yeah, the movie was based on the ride, or like, I was just like, oh, it's a Disney franchise or whatever, they have a ride of it.
Yeah, see, that was the thing. When I first went to Disneyland, I thought it was the other way around, that the ride was based on the movie.
Yeah.
So when I found out that the movie was based on the ride, I was like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. I guess we're going to get into a bit later, the things from the ride that they managed to put in the movie.
Yeah, which I guess are nice little touches if you're like a massive fan of the ride and you recognize all of them. Because I only caught one of them when we were watching the movies the other day. But there were a lot more than just the one that I caught.
I don't think I caught any, but then when I read about the ride and sort of remembered some of the things from the ride, I was like, oh yeah, that's in the movie.
Yeah. Well, the only one I caught was the dog and the keychain.
Yeah, there was that one. Apparently, the going over the waterfall and the turning the ship upside down from the third one was a reference to the beginning of the ride, which I actually don't remember this, but maybe this isn't an old version of the ride and they revamped it. I'm not 100% sure. Or maybe I'm just forgetting a part at the beginning of the ride when you go down a little mini waterfall thing. I don't remember that at the beginning. I remember getting in like a little boat and just going straight.
No, there is a waterfall. I remember it when I rode it.
Okay, well, I don't remember the ride too well. So
when I went not recently, but after the second two movies had come out, they'd added to the waterfall this. It was kind of cool because they're projecting the image onto the waterfall, so you could see the image because the water was falling, but like you could go through it. It was an image of Davy Jones saying, "Abandon all hope, return, you go here," or whatever. They actually cut an explicit reference to going through the waterfall in the first movie. Originally, Jack and Will were going to enter the cave at the end of the movie through a waterfall, and I think that was the one reference that Disney vetoed because they didn't think that reference would work, and also it seemed kind of weird, I think.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the original script didn't really have any of the magic elements that the first one did, and it really, in my opinion, it was the second and third one that went like further and maybe even a bit overboard, with the
wow
with the fantastical elements. You know, the first one was like, is the Aztec gold and the curse, and that's pretty much it. I liked that, but I guess we'll get into how much it works when we go into how much it works as a trilogy.
Yeah.
But the original script these guys wrote was I don't want to say realistic, because probably not realistic as in true to life, but
realistic as it could be.
More realistic in that it didn't have any fantastical elements in it. And apparently, I think Disney didn't really like that. It didn't.
Yeah, I think Disney, and I think Jerry Bruckheimer were like, we gotta ramp it up. Let's just go full historical fantasy, which is also part of the reason why they're very sketchy on what year the movies are set in, because they want it to be like fantasy-ish.
Yeah.
So it's just set, quote unquote, in the golden age of piracy. That's all you need to know.
Which is
fine.
Interesting that golden age starts to come to an end, like in the third one and second one, I guess.
Yeah, and I think at some point you kind of just have to accept that these movies are definitely working on a different timeline, because then the fourth one comes along, it's set a couple years after the third one, and everyone's still pirates, and pirates are still going strong, and I think you kind of just accept that everybody's going to be pirates forever in this universe, which I'm okay with.
And it's based on Juan Ponce de Leon's journeys to find the Fountain of Youth in Florida, which was in like the 1600s. So
I actually
think
this is related to this trilogy. I didn't know that they actually referenced the Fountain of Youth at the end of this trilogy. Like, I thought they just pulled the Fountain of Youth out of nowhere for the fourth film. I didn't actually realize that they referenced it as the next adventure at the end of these movies.
Didn't they mention it in another moment, not at the end? Didn't they just offhandedly remark about the Fountain of Youth?
Possibly.
I think they did. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just making that up. I don't
know. So anyway, the first movie, eventually, I think they signed Gore Verbinski to direct it, who, I don't know if he did The Ring before or after the first Pirates. I think it was before.
Yeah, it was before.
I think The Ring was what made him big. That and Pirates. Yeah, so then they start casting people.
And they're like, hey, let's get Christopher... Well, Disney at this point didn't know if they wanted to do a direct-to-video thing or a theatrical thing. And they're like, hey, let's get Christopher Walken to play Jack Sparrow. Yeah, did you read about that?
Well, that would have been a disaster. I don't know if you saw the live Peter Pan that NBC did with Christopher Walken as Hook.
I didn't. Oh, my gosh. Was that sort of a callback to this? Like, hey, you didn't get to play this pirate, you're going to get to play this pirate instead.
Man, that might almost make it okay. If it is.
Almost.
Christopher Walken's not a bad actor. He was just bad in that adaptation of Peter Pan for whatever reason.
All right.
Yeah, well, they end up getting Johnny Depp.
Yeah, apparently, I don't know how true this is, but it was on Wikipedia. So,
trustworthy.
Apparently, they named Jack Sparrow. They named him Jack Sparrow because they wanted
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. I don't know if that's true or not. I saw that too.
I couldn't find any. Reference.
I think their reference to that was to another Wikipedia article.
Yeah,
and I saw that and I was like, you can't do that. You can't do that. But apparently, they can because they did. The ever enigmatic they.
Yeah, because when the first one came out, Hugh Jackman was still relatively unknown. He'd done the first X-Men, and that was it.
Well, yeah, that's what sort of propelled him to success. And I think he was making the second one at this point.
Yeah, they were working on X2 with this one, which is, I think, part of the reason why they couldn't get Hugh Jackman was because of scheduling conflicts with X2.
Yeah. So they got
Johnny Depp.
Apparently, Johnny Depp really wanted to be in a Disney movie because he really wanted to voice act in an animated movie. Because he had like pretty young kids, I think, at this time, and he was watching a lot of Disney movies with them, and he realized like, I guess I can't really show a lot of my movies to my kids at this age. So what would be cool is if I was in a Disney movie, and then I could show them a movie that I was in.
And then he was in the second ever PG-13 Disney movie. Nice.
Second ever? What was the first one?
I don't know.
Yeah, I read that this was one of the first Disney movies rated above a PG, but I seem to remember that Disney was involved in production of an R-rated movie in the 80s.
That's because...
Or maybe that was a different studio within them or something, I don't know.
Disney owns... I want to say it's Miramax, but it might be Touchstone. One of those two companies, Disney actually owns them, and they use that company to distribute all of their Disney property movies. So Disney has technically released R movies, like Pulp Fiction was distributed through Disney's corporation. So, I mean, depends how vaguely you want to be Disney R-rated.
Yeah, because I just remember I was looking up random movies at some point, and I was like, I stumbled upon this movie, I was just reading its Wikipedia page, and like, this is actually the first rated R movie released by Disney. And I was like, wait, what? This is actually just digressing back to the interesting things about Disneyland thing, but...
We should just do a Disneyland podcast as the 0.5 episode.
Yeah, we were thinking about riding the ride for the 0.5 episode of this, but we don't know.
We don't want to blow $90 for a 20-minute episode.
Yeah, Disneyland costs $90 now, if you didn't know. So, anyway... the interesting thing I learned recently about Disneyland is that it's designed so that you can't see the outside from the inside. Yeah. You can't see anything. You can't see Anaheim from inside Disneyland. I didn't know that. It's interesting. I don't exactly know what to say about that other than that it has a very off-putting quality to it.
It's because it's Disney considered Disneyland like a full-size stage show, which is why everybody works there are called cast members, and that's why you can't see the outside world, because you're supposed to be in another world.
Yeah, that's why they wouldn't let that's why they were allowed to let go of that Muslim girl who wanted to wear a hijab. They're like, haha, you're just a cast member, you have to wear your costume. That's not part of your costume. So
legal loopholes. Disney's also the reason why copyright extends for like 90 years after a person dies. If you didn't know this, every time that the copyright for Mickey Mouse is about to expire and Mickey Mouse is about to become public domain, Disney pours a ton of money to congressmen, getting them to extend the copyright lifetime after an author's death. So if you want to know why it's like 90 years, it's because Disney. It's because of Disney and Mickey Mouse.
Yep.
So anyway, Johnny Depp apparently. So even at this point in the production stage, they were thinking about at least making it somewhat serious, and then Johnny Depp came in and so Johnny Depp
and started doing this with his hands.
This with his hands, because you can totally see that in an audio podcast.
They can.
In your mind's eye. No, so Johnny Depp was like, all right, well, so pirates are kind of like the rock stars of their day, right? Who's a good rock star now? Keith Richards. So he plays Jack Sparrow.
Pirates like the rock stars of their day.
According to Johnny Depp, they were.
The world according to Johnny Depp.
Now I would read that book. Pirates were the rock stars of their day. It's also kind of weird.
He succeeded majorly with his portrayal of the character, so you can't really fault him too much.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why the movies work is because Jack Sparrow is so out there.
Honestly, I think a lot of people say this, so I don't think it's too controversial of me to say it, is that this movie wouldn't even be half as good and would probably even suck if Johnny Depp wasn't in it.
Yeah, probably. Even though I still think Barbossa's the best character, I would agree with that assessment of the movies. It's kind of weird that he based it on Keith Richards, and then they got Keith Richards to play Jack Sparrow's dad in the third one.
Maybe an intentional thing.
Possibly.
Yeah, I read that a lot of what he put into the character wasn't in the script at all. According to Orlando Bloom, who played Will, he was like, yeah, the script doesn't really have any of this cool stuff, so Depp really brought it to life there and did his own thing with it and made it better than what it originally was in script form.
Yeah. Speaking of Orlando Bloom, while I was looking at the second movie on the Pirates of the Caribbean wiki, it had a link to the press kit for the second movie, which, if you don't know, the press kit is what the company sends out to all the publications saying, like, this is what our movie is, and here's how we made it and everything. And in there, it has this whole section about how Jerry Bruckheimer decided to cast Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, and it's like, Jerry Bruckheimer has an eye for catching young stars before they become famous. He cast Orlando Bloom right after Lord of the Rings came out. He's like, he cast Keira Knightley when she was only 17 before Bend It Like Beckham came out, which catapulted her to stardom. It's like, okay. I actually didn't know that Keira Knightley was only 17 when she was casted for the first movie.
Yeah, she looks a lot older than that. Would also explain that line like 10 years ago when I was 8, which we thought was really weird in the movie. I actually sort of want to revise what I said, that the movie would suck without Johnny Depp. I sort of want to revise that to, it would suck without an actor who would portray Sparrow in a super interesting way like Depp managed to do.
Probably, yeah.
Because I don't want to bash, any alternate actors who might have done something cool with this role and done it really well, because that could have been possible.
Yeah, and it might have even been good. We just
don't know.
We never know.
Unless they remake it with all the same actors except Johnny Depp.
Why would they do that? They cast Jeffrey... What's his last name for Barbossa?
It starts with an R. I don't remember. I don't know anything else that he's in, even though he's in a lot of famous movies, so...
God, what's his name?
Or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Jeffrey
Rushes or something? I don't know.
Apparently they cast him because he could bring that subtlety to Barbossa's character. Which doesn't really matter when Johnny Depp's on screen with you. No one's focusing on the subtlety you're bringing to the character. Even though, honestly, I think this movie probably wouldn't be that good either with anyone else's Barbossa.
Well, Barbossa's a really cool villain in the first one. And I'd probably say I didn't really like the direction they took a lot of the characters in 2 and 3, but I think I do like the direction they took Barbossa in 2 and 3. Yeah, he looks a lot less cool. I looked up pictures of this actor who, unfortunately,
pretty sure it's Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah, he looks way cooler as Barbossa than he does in real life.
Well, he looks the same, just without the beard and the hat and the makeup.
Yeah, exactly. A lot less cool.
I feel like most people are like that. Like most actors are like that, though.
He also wears those giant hipster glasses, so.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, Barbossa has that sick hat that pretty much is the best hat in the entire franchise, so... Jeffrey Rush apparently was the one who decided to wear the ostrich feather in the hat.
Huh.
The big blue ostrich feather.
I thought it was green, but I guess you couldn't really tell. A lot of the scenes were dark.
Yeah, so it's honestly more black than anything else.
So...
Yeah, the first one was a big success, unsurprisingly.
Yeah. They tried to slap, I think Disney, like I mentioned before, tried to slap the Curse of the Black Pearl subtitle on, and Verbinski, I think, didn't like it too much, so they deliberately tried to hide it on the posters. And if you look at some of the posters for the movie when it was first coming out, 1, they suck. 2,
movie posters have gotten a lot better recently.
One of the posters is, I think, just a painting of a skeleton manning a ship's wheel.
Yeah, I know what poster you're talking about.
Yeah. Kind of lame there, especially when they have Johnny Depp in the movie and, he's not really a part of the poster in any way other than his name being on it.
It's almost like they were foreseeing what they were going to do for the 5th movie, which is advertised as much as possible without Johnny Depp. And a lot of people theorize that's because, if you didn't know, Johnny Depp has gone through a big controversy recently because of his divorce with Amber Heard, who claims he beat her. A lot of he said, she said.
I didn't know that, so.
No one really knows what actually happened, and I'm not going to make any statement on what actually happened, but people think Disney's avoiding marketing Johnny Depp heavily for the new movie because of the controversy.
Yeah, makes sense, I guess.
So the second and third one, they pulled a Back to the Future / Matrix Revelations.
No, it's Revolutions.
No, it's Revolutions, where they filmed 2 and 3 back to back.
Yeah.
For 8 months.
Guess you can do that when the first one is a huge success. The first one, I think, is in the top 5 biggest successes for Disney.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Frozen is number 1 up there, and Lion King is number 2. But
I think Wreck-It Ralph is on there too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, and I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just pulling this out of nowhere, but I'm guessing Wreck-It Ralph isn't in the top 5 if you try and incorporate like toy sales and merchandise and stuff like that.
It's true.
Because it wasn't, I don't think it was as heavily not marketed, but it wasn't as heavily monetized through like toys and games and those party hats.
Frozen is literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially in Disneyland.
No, I don't know. I haven't been to Disneyland since like 2010. So, oh no, they took out someone and put Elsa in. They took out, God, I forget who. They also took out someone to put, I think Vader in, like a famous Disney character to put in Vader.
Yeah, I think
people want to see Vader.
Well, yeah, Disney owns Star Wars now.
Yeah, I mean,
they're building Star Wars Land at Disneyland, so which might be interesting. I mean, Star Tours was always a cool ride.
Yeah, they revamped that one too. I've never been on the.
I've been on the revamped version. It's actually really cool.
Aren't there like 5 different versions of it?
Yeah.
Rather than
they also do this cool thing where Vader stops you and he's like, "You've got an Imperial spy on your ship," and then it flashes a picture of someone in the ship that the cameras took while you were in the line. So it's actually someone on the ship is a quote unquote spy.
And they torture them in the back room. No.
Anyway,
they blow up their home. No.
Back to the movies. Yeah, so they're doing
high risk, high reward Disneyland visits.
I mean, the second and third one were high risk, high reward movies because the second and third one are some of the most expensive movies ever made.
Yeah, the third one was
for a while
at the time that it came out. I think it still is based on inflation. Number 1.
Yeah, unadjusted for inflation.
Oh no, On Stranger Tides is the fourth one.
Yeah, is the most expensive, and then At World's End, which is the third one, is second. And then Avengers: Age of Ultron.
And then John Carter, that movie that completely bombed.
These top 5 are all Disney films. Interesting. Wait, what about adjusted for inflation? Apparently the most expensive back-to-back was the Hobbit trilogy.
How about individual? Oh, On Stranger Tides and At World's End. The same exact top 2.
And then Titanic is third, tied with Spider-Man 3. And then Tangled.
God, Tangled was such a mediocre movie.
I think Tangled cost so much because of all that hair physics they had to develop for the movie.
Yeah, probably.
And there's a very specific reason why these movies cost so much to make, which we'll get into a second. But yeah, so the third one, with the second and third one, they decide to take the characters in a more pirate lore grounded area, but also more fantastical.
Yeah, there's this thing that Rossio said, which I can get what he was going for, but I think this also plays into some of why I didn't like 2 and 3 as much as 1. He said he wanted to escalate the conflict from 1 because 1 it had those fantastical elements, but it was kind of a down-to-earth almost conflict where, they stole the treasure and now they, it's based on this group of guys just stealing stuff, which is a pretty down-to-earth thing, happens in real life. People steal things. And then the second and third one, they incorporate like the gods, the ancient pirate like lore and the monsters and stuff. So what he said was that he wanted to escalate it each movie so that it would, the second one has the Kraken, like the monster. The third one, there's this god, and like it gets more fantastic each time. So he said he imagined people watching them all back to back, oddly,
Hey, that was us.
And seeing how that conflict sort of gets bigger and bigger each time. And enjoying it, which I guess that's an enjoyable thing for some people. It wasn't for me, but...
Well, they did that for Kung Fu Panda, which we mentioned, how they went bigger and bigger, and I think the reason why maybe you didn't like the second and third one so much is that they made a really big jump from the first one to the second one in terms of escalating it, because they went from...
Yeah, it's true.
They went from Barbossa as the main villain, who was just a guy who had accidentally been cursed, to the Kraken.
Yeah.
I almost feel like...
Davy Jones.
I almost feel like the escalation would feel more natural if the fourth one had been sandwiched in between the first and second one, because the fourth one is more fantastical than the first one, but not as fantastical as the second and third.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. It sort of went back to their roots. I know Barbossa is more of a villain. I'm not exactly remembering the fourth 100%, but Barbossa is more of a villain in that than he was in 2 and 3.
Kind of. Because Barbossa's a privateer in the fourth one. But
doesn't mean he's not a villain.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like that escalation would have made more sense if that fourth one had been sandwiched in between 1 and 2.
Or one of the things that when I was thinking back on these movies, one of the things I kept thinking is that 2 and 3 would have worked well as a season of a TV show. Because a lot of the pacing stuff was really weird, right? They spent so much time on like that island, and then like the gambling scene went by like seemed super quick. You know, that could have been one episode. The island could have been an episode.
Unfortunately, I don't think a TV budget would be enough to produce these movies.
Well, another reason, probably. Another reason why I say that is there's a lot of betrayal in 2 and 3. And a lot of it comes like right after the other, you know, super quickly. Whereas like if you're watching this on a weekly basis or you're watching like one episode at a time or like one a day or such, you might have more time to digest it.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like, I lost, I guess we're going to get into this more when we talk about how it worked as a trilogy, but I kind of lost sort of the plot in the second and third ones.
Yeah, they actually cut a lot of stuff out of the second and third ones. Might pay into that. Yeah, but also they didn't have the script finished when they started filming because Disney desperately wanted to get these movies out, so they flew the script writers over to where they were filming and like, you're working on the set now, write things as they need them.
Oh, we didn't mention the first one they actually did shoot in the Caribbean.
Yeah, second and third one too, but less so.
Yeah, they also shot part of those here in Southern California, where a lot of movies are shot, but it was on location.
Yeah.
Rather than a set.
Well, they actually, so I guess this gets into why these movies were so expensive to produce. They actually built all of these ships that they used, which I think is very cool, actually. They actually went through the time and effort to build these ships to film on and film at sea.
Yeah, and apparently, I don't remember who said this, but obviously someone from special effects or someone from effects who was involved in making the ships was like, yeah, we deliberately didn't put much CGI on the ships. You know, we did when we had to, but we kept it to a minimum, because we wanted them to seem more realistic, I guess was his reason. I don't remember why exactly, but
yeah,
I think he said there are things you just can't do with CGI. I think maybe it was there are things you just can't make people believe with CGI. I don't know, which is like it's a fantasy movie, so I don't really know how much that holds true. But hey,
well, the CG
pretty cool what they did with
Davy
the ships.
Jones like holds up really well today.
Yeah, it does.
Well, so yeah, the ships
and his crew members.
The Black Pearl, for Curse of the Black Pearl, they built the Black Pearl on top of a barge. They designed it around the barge, and like, this is the Black Pearl, so they were kind of limited in the dimensions. Why it kind of looks... The design of the Black Pearl actually changes from the first movie to the second movie, although I don't think you can actually tell.
I didn't notice.
And that's because in the second movie, they got a ship called the Sunset, and they just built the Black Pearl on top of it, and just the entire thing, because it used to be just like this flat ship with an engine, and they just slapped this giant Black Pearl on top of it. The Flying Dutchman was built entirely from scratch. They built that ship entirely from scratch. And the set designer was like, this was a new challenge because I've never built a ship before. But Gore Verbinski and Jerry Bruckheimer came to me like, we need you to build a ship. So I built a ship.
They built the docks for the ships too, which is less impressive, but still pretty impressive.
Yeah. Speaking of CG on ships, the big ship in the first movie, the Endeavor?
Interceptor?
Not the Interceptor, the big one.
I don't know.
I think it was the Endeavor. That one, the size of the ships are actually CG, because I guess they couldn't get the dimensions of the sides with all the cannons correct for the ship they were building, so the sides of that ship are actually CG, but otherwise everything is pretty much practical effects, which is pretty good, except for the sails. The sails are CG as well.
Yeah.
Also, they actually did film some ship scenes on land, I found out. I was looking this up. They found this, I guess, for the Maelstrom scene in the third one, you know, the Flying Dutchman and the Black Pearl are circling that thing. So they had found this air base, and they used this hangar. I think it's in Palmdale. It was like 3 feet thick concrete floors, because they built these massive giant steel rigs on them that could tilt ships. They built these massive rigs with these massive ships so they built a second copy of the ships on top of these rigs that could tilt back and forth to film the battle on. And apparently each of the ships weighed 500 tons. All in steel and wood. And they also used the Black Pearl rig for when they flipped the ship upside down.
I read also this doesn't really make sense to me. And I think part of that is how the guy was talking, because a lot of times when people like transcribe interviews, they don't make them too clear because it's people. Well, it's also hard to because it's people talking. So I didn't really get this. I didn't really try to. I just sort of moved on from it. So it's also kind of my fault. But apparently they used 30,000 pounds of concrete to destroy the ships. I don't know. I'll have to link to that article because I'm not 100% sure if that's true. But yeah.
Jeez.
I don't know what process what process you take to use concrete to destroy the ships, but I'll have to link to that in the description.
That's interesting.
Episode notes, which we have episode notes if you didn't know.
Yeah, if you didn't know. One of the most interesting special effects that they filmed, to me anyway, this was like 2 hours before we recorded, I found this video. So in the third one, there's that scene where Tia Dalma gets really big when she's released from her human form and she breaks into all those crabs, right? Mm-hmm. The VFX department was like, how are we going to actually do this? Apparently, and there's video of this, you can go watch it, it's actually very funny. What they did was they got all these, when you go to a ball pit, those tiny plastic balls.
Yeah.
Got a ton of those, blue, all of them blue. They got like 80,000 blue balls, and they put them in nets, and they basically just tested dropping these balls off ramps to bowl people over. And then they found the right angle, and they filmed it on the set of the ship with these blue balls falling from the sky to knock the guys over. And then when they went in the VFX, they're like, so all the blue balls, you just turn them into crabs, which is a lot easier than plopping down crabs and then trying to imagine how the flood of crabs would knock people over.
Here, little crab. Here. Okay, no.
Come here.
That's not how they get animals to act. They actually use professional animals, but anyway. What?
This is a random part of the video where they all just start throwing balls at each other. And like, yeah, it's like all these adults are 10-year-old kids now when we make a ball pit on the ship and everyone's throwing balls at everybody's head. You see like Jeffrey Rush and what's his name, Gibbs, just throwing balls back and forth. It's actually really funny.
Yeah, one of the things, speaking of ships on land, which you briefly
touched
mentioned, yeah, one of the things that I kind of didn't like about the third one is I remembered when the third one was coming out and they heavily advertised it with the scene with the Black Pearl in the desert in Davy Jones' locker. And I was like, oh my God, that looks really cool. It's going to be, the first two are on the sea, and this one's going to be like they're stranded in the desert, and it's going to be the whole movie there. But it wasn't. It wasn't like that. That was just a short little bit.
That was Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah, and I guess the direction they took it was all right, but I don't know. I think they could have done more with like a desert setting. It's like, that would have been so cool. It's pirates, right? They're supposed to be on the sea, but it's actually in a desert.
Yeah, they probably could do some really cool stuff with that, but I also don't feel like, based on the conclusion of the second one, that would have made any sense for the third one.
No, not really. I mean, I didn't know it was Davy Jones' locker when I saw these ads, right? I just thought it was a desert, and like somehow it's in the desert, so that's why I thought it would be cool. But
it was kind of cool when it was riding those crabs over the waves. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But I guess all the money they poured into this paid off, because this franchise is like a pretty big success, so...
Well, like we said, Davy Jones still holds up, which is honestly the most impressive thing to me, since he's mostly CG. Oh, they had Bill. God, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Nighy. I think it's Nighy, but I don't know. On set in this mocap suit, and then they took the mocap to do Davy Jones. Oh, the other interesting SFX thing I found out was when they were doing the skeleton versions of everyone for the first movie. Apparently, that was really difficult to do, to get everybody looking right, so they had to film every fight sequence 3 times.
Yeah, I think I read that.
Once with everybody, once with just the pirates, and once with just the Royal Navy or whoever they were fighting. And then that way they could take just the pirate scene and use that to composite together the skeleton versions, and then they could use the shot of everyone together as a reference to put the skeleton version with the Navy version.
Yeah, one of the things I really paid attention to was making sure everyone kept their unique look in the skeleton form by having, like, I think at least one distinguishing feature on every sort of background pirate, and then keeping that in the skeleton form so you know who's who, if you're paying a lot of attention, that is, when they're in skeleton form. And that's one of the things that the first movie did pretty well, in my opinion, and the second and third did to an extent also. Maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention, is that all the sort of background guys / extras / just the pirates, the random crew pirates that you see, they all sort of have like their own character, even if they don't even have any lines.
Yeah.
Like my two favorite characters from this entire trilogy were the
Pintel and Rigoletti.
I guess
I found
that's
out
their
names were when I was doing research.
Yeah, the eye patch guy and the vault guy. They were my favorites. Not so much them because they actually had lines and became more major characters, I guess, / comic relief guys. But there are specific characters you can see in the background who do show up scene after scene, and they sort of, if you pay enough attention, I think they sort of have their own personality, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of attention to detail in these movies.
Yep.
Which is probably part of the reason why everything holds up so well, visually at least.
Yeah. And I was reading, I think I was reading about it, but maybe I was talking to someone about it, but that can't be true because I never talk to people. Anyway, I heard recently from somewhere that when they were making the Harry Potter movies, they got professional bookmakers, like people who make books in an old style, like how they used to in the Middle Ages, to make all the books in the background. Like when you go into Dumbledore's study or whatever, there's like bookshelves and books. There's books everywhere in that movie. So those movies, rather. So they got, they paid hundreds or thousands
of bookmakers to these
bookmakers to make these books. And on the one hand, it's just like, wow, seems like such a waste of money because a lot of these books only appear in the movie for like 2 to 3 seconds. But it's pretty cool also because they're so dedicated to making the movie seem believable and like making the movie's world like not half-assed, I guess is a pretty
I really
good
like
way to put it.
When they do that, like you can...
Because they could have just slapped a book on a shelf and called it a day and no one would have cared, but...
Yeah, like sometimes you could really tell that the filmmakers actually put care and effort into trying to make the film good. And I like that when they do that because generally it also helps the film be better. It doesn't make the film good, but it does help.
I mean, it also helps that, they're funded by Warner Brothers, who has enough money to shell out to these people. You can't really fault like smaller studios for not paying out the thousands for the books on the shelf. So
no.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what we're doing. So.
No. I'm just saying it's cool when they do shell out the money.
Just wanting to make that clear. Yeah.
So, Flying Dutchman, by the way, the ship itself looks very cool when you see pictures of it that aren't in the...
Thought you were talking about the SpongeBob character.
No, No,
he's pretty cool, too. He's one of my favorite characters. I like that episode where they wish him back onto the ship. Okay, anyway, never mind.
Because they put a lot of detail into the thing for that. I mean, like you said, there's barely any CG on the ships, which you might expect to be CG on the Flying Dutchman, but there actually isn't. Pretty much all those things are actually on the ship they built.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, because it doesn't seem that true, but it might be. Apparently, a lot of people thought Davy Jones' tentacles were practical effects because they look so good.
Yeah.
Which, it's true. They do look pretty good.
And they're not practical. They're CG. They had to apparently invent an entirely new program.
Eating, right? Seem to get in the way.
Well, he can use the tentacles to eat. He doesn't even need to use his hands. He does that when he plays the organ because he has a claw for a hand.
He can eat and play the organ at the same time.
They had to invent an entirely new program to simulate those tentacles so that they would seem natural and they wouldn't just squish around all the time unnaturally.
I read that first they were going to animate them, with actual animators, but then they were like, nah, this is too hard and takes too much effort. So we're just going to make a program that does it for us.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, actually every crew member on Davy Jones' ship is CG except for Bootstrap Bill. Which I thought was impressive because some of them actually look like really convincingly human in prosthetics.
Yep.
The only one that is Bootstrap Bill, who has no CG on him. They were going to augment him with CG, but they didn't in the end. I don't remember. I don't know why. Actually, they didn't say why they didn't.
A lot of movie makers, a lot of effects people seem to not want to do CG whenever possible. I guess it's a lot of the older generation.
Honestly, I think I like it better when they actually do practical effects. When it looks good, I like whatever looks best, to be honest. That's probably what I'm just going to say.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything about the making of.
Yeah,
they used 8,000 costumes. I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought that was cool.
As far as I know, there weren't really any funny or dangerous incidents.
No, although I do think everybody had a pretty good time, and I think a lot of the cast members came away being really good friends after this. Like, I know Pintel and Rigoletti, the actors who played them, became basically inseparable during the filming of the first movie because they became such good friends. And I'm sure everybody else made a lot of really good friendships. From what I've heard, everybody who's involved in these movies loves making them. Like, especially Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Depp love making these films, and that's why they keep coming back.
Yeah, and you can make a good movie where everyone involved hates it, probably. Yeah, but
you definitely can, but
probably results in a better movie when, you don't hate it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much true.
But how well do they work as a trilogy?
Yeah. I think well.
I think all right. Not well, but all right. And that's partly down to personal preference, because I didn't like how fantastic they took the second and third one. Because I liked how they set it up in the first one with just sort of like one little fantastical element. Like, it's this world of pirates, and of course it's not completely historical.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's pretty much why.
I think it works well because it actually works better than I thought it would, because I guess I didn't remember that they actually brought back Commodore Norrington for the second and third film, and I think actually them bringing him back makes the trilogy work as a trilogy better, because they have that character who was in the first one and sort of continues to play as a secondary antagonist in the later ones, and I think it ties together the first one with the second two.
Yeah, you see his ups and downs too. Like, first he's this Commodore, and then he's just like this guy in a bar.
Yeah, on Tortuga.
Yeah.
And then he's I guess a privateer for the East India Trading Company. And then he has his redemption moment at the end when he frees Elizabeth.
Yeah, he's, I guess a pretty interesting character. I like the sort of, not that the characters in the second and third one weren't simple, because I think they were not that that's a bad thing, just that they were simple. A lot of people equate that with bad, but I don't think that's necessarily true. But I like the simplicity, I think, of the first one more. I don't know. I feel like they took the characters in a very different direction, like with Will and Elizabeth becoming pirates and stuff. They just felt different somehow from between the first and second.
I agree with you on that complaint, because I also kind of feel like where Will and Elizabeth went didn't really for Will, it felt more natural than Elizabeth, because Will's dad was a pirate, but for Elizabeth it kind of felt weird that she ended up becoming Pirate Lord of Singapore and then Pirate King, and then she's leading her ship into battle, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it just didn't seem in line with how they were set up in the first one.
And also she killed Jack Sparrow.
But the thing about Will's dad was, I guess I don't have too much of a problem with that plot point, but almost every single scene with Will in it, he was like, my dad, gotta go rescue my dad. Hey, my dad's part of Davy Jones' crew, which I guess, it's on his mind and it's what he's trying to do. But, well,
you kind of look at it through his eyes. He was orphaned from when he was 8 and lives on this island where the woman he loves is the governor's daughter, and he's apprenticed to a drunkard as a blacksmith, and he just found out his dad's alive when he's thought he was dead for 10 years.
I guess, but sure.
It's just, I don't know. I like it as a trilogy. I like Davy Jones as a villain in the second movie specifically, because I think he's a really threatening villain in the second one. In the third one, I feel like replacing him with Cutler Beckett as the main villain was a mistake, because I just don't feel like Cutler Beckett was as strong of a villain as Davy Jones was.
He's less supernatural of a villain, kind of counteracting that escalation they might have been trying to do.
That, and Davy Jones felt like there were very specific stakes when he was the villain, like he could kill you and then you would be part of his crew, whereas when Cutler Beckett was the villain, it was like, what, he's gonna wipe out the pirates, okay. Someone just sneaks into his office and shoots him in the head and he's dead, right? And that ends the entire thing he was trying to do. It's not like he had some sort of
plan. Yeah, you can't just go kill
plan.
Davy Jones. I guess that's the thing. The second and third one to me were pretty confusing, which doesn't mean bad or unenjoyable or not fun. It just means confusing. I didn't get a lot of the stuff that they might have been, or I didn't get a lot of
You were picking up the hints they were dropping down.
No, not even that. I didn't get the not lore, but I didn't get the rules / this world they were setting up, he's branded and he's going to be followed by the Kraken or whatever, until later. Whereas the first one is like, it's pretty easily understandable, or it was for me. Maybe the second and third ones are like things that you got to go back and watch the second time and then you understand it more. And that's also, I think part of it is because when Will's dad first showed up and basically explained what was going to happen for the next 2.5 hours, I couldn't understand him at all. Because he was talking really low and deep, like this, but even more. And I was just like, well, I can't understand him, but you know what? Whatever. I really don't care what he's saying. And then that came back to haunt me, I guess, when I couldn't understand the rest of the movie almost.
Yeah, the second and third one are very confusing.
There's a lot of betrayal, too, so there's that.
Watching them a second or third time, though, I like them better because I already know what's going to happen, so I feel like I understand it better. Luckily for the fourth one, I guess they toned down that confusion, although a lot of people think the fourth one is the worst, and it might be for other reasons unrelated to the confusion, because it's not confusing.
I don't think confusing necessarily means bad. I can easily enjoy and have fun with something
You're right.
that I find confusing.
You're right. The only reason I bring it up in that context is because the reviewers for the second and third one, the critical reception for the second and third one said that the confusion was a detracting point.
Huh. Okay, I guess we'll find out when we watch 4, 5, and the inevitable 6.
Man, I really hope 5 is, like...
Good.
Because
I hope it's bad.
Well, like, even though the second, third, and fourth one are, like, they're not great movies or anything, I still love all of these movies for whatever reason. These are, like, just movies that I just love watching for no apparent reason whatsoever, not because they're good. And I don't know what I love about these movies, but I just love watching these movies.
I love the first one. Pretty... not impartial. I'm pretty ambivalent on the second and third one. They were okay to me.
And that's fine. I think that's like mostly the common consensus.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, I don't understand why I love these movies so much, because they're just okay. They're just
Maybe
good.
It's the soundtrack.
We didn't actually mention the soundtrack,
which is surprising because it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good, and the Jack Sparrow theme is one of the most recognizable themes of basically the 21st century.
Yeah.
One of the most movie themes, that is. And it wasn't written by Hans Zimmer, although he composed most of the score. I think it's pretty much agreed that the Jack Sparrow theme was actually written by his quote-unquote protege/assistant Klaus Badalt.
I don't know if I told you this, but supposedly Hans Zimmer composed Doctor in Distress.
I think you did tell me that. And I think I said, I don't know if I believe you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true.
It
was in the YouTube comment.
Okay, well, those are trustworthy.
I didn't Google it to find out any more about it.
I did find out that the theme that I really liked from Kung Fu Panda 3, the villain's theme, that's like the really deep and low one, found out he stole that from an Imagine Dragons song, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the soundtracks are very good for these movies.
Yeah, I don't know who said this, but I'm pretty sure it was some big person in the film industry, is that a good soundtrack is the difference between a good movie and a bad movie. Do you know who said that? I don't know.
I don't know who said that, and that sounds something like we've talked on the show before.
Yeah, probably.
We actually have, because I think I said that I think a good score actually can't save a bad movie.
Huh. I don't know. I didn't have any opinion on it, I think, then, and I don't think I have one now, because I just don't know.
I think he can help a bad movie. I don't think he can save the bad movie. But I think a bad movie is a bad movie regardless of whether or not the score is good.
Yeah, or maybe the quote is, it's the difference between like a good movie and a great movie or something like that. I really don't know.
That might make more sense.
Yeah.
Because I feel like scores can elevate a movie like that.
Yeah.
I guess this is
imagine. I just thought of this. Imagine if Star Wars had like generic trailer music, right? Like generic 2017 trailer music. Just imagine New Hope with yeah.
That's the thing. Like, so many of the trilogies we've talked about, and we've mentioned this on the episodes, like Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Star Wars,
scores,
have recognizable themes that help the movie. Like Avengers has it too.
A lot of the most famous movies do. Yeah. Now come to think of it.
Like the Godfather theme is,
I don't know.
You may not be able to hum it, but when you hear it, it'll be instantly recognizable.
Huh. Okay. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly theme.
Yeah.
If you type Western theme,
it comes. There it is. And I don't know, maybe that's just something weird between that, like, great movies are more generally, or good movies are more generally likely to be seen by a lot of people, so their themes are going to be more prevalent.
I honestly don't think it's that. I think it's just that a lot of people liked the movies more than they would have otherwise because of the soundtracks. I honestly think that that's true.
It probably is. Might be why I like these movies, although I don't think it's the entire reason why I love these movies.
Yeah, I don't know if a soundtrack can be the entire reason why you like a movie. Maybe it can, but wouldn't it be the case then that you only like the soundtrack and not the actual movie? That's
the thing. I really like the soundtrack for Interstellar too, and that was another film that I think was really elevated by its soundtrack.
Yeah, I really liked that movie. Which, oddly enough,
was also written by Hans Zimmer.
I really liked that movie when I first saw it, and I remember coming out of it and being like, man, that soundtrack was good. But I can't remember what it sounded like now. Probably because I only watched it once.
Lots of organs and excitement.
Oh, like Davy Jones' heart. It's an organ. Looks pretty cool. I
thought you were referencing his actual organ that he keeps on his ship for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Maybe there's some sort of connection there. But yeah, you think it's just going to be like a concept. You're like, oh yeah, his heart is lost, but no, it's an actual beating heart in a chest.
Yeah, one thing that kind of detracts from the second and third one is all these characters on the Black Pearl who like don't believe in all these supernatural things. I'm like, you just went through an entire movie where you all got cursed and were immortal for 10 years.
Gods, nah.
Like,
nah.
What? Gods, nah. Davy Jones, nah. I'm like, what? This is the part where we talk about expanded universe stuff.
Yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. Maybe I was just missing some of these things. Again, I kind of want to go back and watch the second and third ones again at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one I thought had a bit more character development for Jack. Maybe it wasn't development, but there was that reveal like, oh yeah, he's this mysterious pirate, he's really cool, and everyone thinks he's like a badass or whatever, but then the way he got off the island was like so lame, right? Like he's actually not like this guy that everyone thinks he is, and that was sort of like a reveal. The second and third one, I don't know where they were going, where they carried that in any way. Again, Jack was the one who seemed them pretty similar between all three of them, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
He kept up sort of the weird portrayal depth that is.
Well,
but maybe that was lost.
The third one by far was definitely the Barbossa movie, the Barbossa character development movie. Because he got the most character development out of everyone in the third one, I think, where he went from straight villain to, I guess, kind of an anti-hero. And maybe the second one just forgone?
Forgoed.
Something like that. Jack Sparrow's characterization for Will and Elizabeth, who I guess they kind of considered the main through line of this entire trilogy was Will and Elizabeth's story.
Elizabeth was more the main character, more than anyone in the second and third one. The main character was Elizabeth, in my opinion. So
I think Elizabeth actually was almost the main character of the entire movie series, considering the very first scene of the movie.
Yeah, she is her. She is in the first one too. I don't consider Jack the sole main character of the first one.
No, it's kind of like an ensemble film, I think, in my opinion. I that's actually something I don't like about the third one, is that it didn't start with a scene of Elizabeth, because both of the first two did, and I liked that thematic continuity. Well, the reason why I don't like it is because the original scene that was the start of the third movie was a scene of Elizabeth, and they changed it to that scene where they were singing that song in the jail.
Okay, I don't... Oh, yeah, all right, sure.
Which is... it's kind of a weird way to start a movie. Everywhere you're just hanging people and they start singing. It's kind of... I guess they were trying to show Cutler Beckett as an actual threatening villain, I suppose.
I don't know.
Anyway, expanded universe. I found out there's a prequel book to this movie series.
The fourth one is based on an unrelated book, I think.
Yeah, called On Stranger Tides.
There's obviously the ride that it's based on. Oh, we didn't talk about the things that are part of the ride.
Oh yeah, guess we should do that.
The dog holding the keys away from the people in the jail cell is like the most famous thing. I didn't remember that was part of the ride until I read about it, and then I was like, oh yeah. I can't think of any
There's
of
the
the
ship
others.
attacking the fort in the ride.
They added things to the ride from the movie.
They added
after the movies came out, just like how they added Eddie Murphy voiceovers to the Haunted Mansion.
Well, so they added, like I said earlier, that Davy Jones projection, but they also added a Jack Sparrow animatronic at the end of the ride. Actually, that's part of the reason why the ride was so well liked, was because of the animatronics.
Huh.
But yeah, they edited Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow animatronic right to the end of the ride as you're coming up the hill back to the starting point. He's like he's rocking back and forth in the chair with singing Yo Ho, Yo Ho, Pirates Fly For Me.
Interesting there.
There used to be an MMO called Pirates of the Caribbean Online, and I played it.
What?
I played it when it was online.
Was this an official thing?
Yeah, it was an official thing Disney made. It was like 10 years ago. It shut down a while ago, but I played it when it was online. I remember having a lot of fun with it. And I remember, this was so dumb that I remember this, but I remember that Disney was like, we're going to keep adding story to it, and you had to pay, but there were free accounts that couldn't do the story. But they added one chapter of the story and then just kept adding side quests and never expanded the story beyond that one chapter. But the story was like you had
typical MMO there, I think. Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it was the story was you had to gather the crew of the Black Pearl, and then you got to sail the Black Pearl you got to break it out of
it's pretty cool.
Fort.
That's the thing with most free MMOs though, or like ones that have a paid plan and a free plan, is that the free plan is usually not that good.
Yeah, but I was like 10, so I didn't care.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, pirates! I had my little ship, sailed around.
It's pretty cool.
I was kind of bummed when I found out like a year ago that it shut down. I was like, oh man, it's a piece of nostalgia right there. It shut down. Don't even remember what my ship was called.
The Black Curl.
The Black Curl.
Other than that?
That's about it. There was a tie-in comic, I think.
Huh.
We should read on Stranger Tides for the 0.5 episode.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's either that, the prequel novel, or going to Disneyland and riding the ride.
No! I don't have $90 to spend just to ride Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't go just ride the ride and leave. You would spend the day at Disneyland.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm suggesting it. Doesn't mean I want to do it.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, figure something out. I guess. We could just show up and be like, hey, we didn't do anything, so sorry.
We almost did that for a month ago. The MMO actually revealed a lot of the backstory behind how Jack Sparrow got into the Brethren Court. Apparently this other guy actually, it's not a joke, there was a pirate named Jolly Roger who was supposed to have that spot, or he thought he was supposed to, but then Jack Sparrow got it, and Jolly Roger was all upset, so he tried to kill Jack, and then he got cursed, and now Jolly Roger's just a skeleton who walks around the island killing people.
Cool.
Now you know.
Was that the one story thing they added?
No, the one story thing was the breaking out the Black Pearl.
Oh.
It's the only time you got to sail the Black Pearl. You have to sail your own shit and the rest of it. There's a surprising amount of lore on the Pirates of the Caribbean wiki. I know this is kind of like spinning our wheels right before the end of the episode, but I just wanted to bring that up. That the Pirates of the Caribbean wiki is like surprisingly detailed about the lore of this world. Has like every Brethren Court meeting, who was on the court at that time.
Deepest lore. Okay. No.
Yeah, you can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, thoughts on what we should do for the 0.5 episode.
Because we sure as heck don't know.
You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play, all at Triple Play. Leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Triple Play. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at 3P Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time, are we watching?
We're watching Aladdin.
Oh, yeah. And next time, we're watching Aladdin. The first one, and then the direct-to-video sequels. But
there's nothing coming out that month we can capitalize on.
But until then, the end.